Transcribed by TurboScribe.ai, weaving narratives with every word. Upgrade to Unlimited to eliminate this notification. The last time I laid eyes on him, he was just stepping into the world beyond high school, lean and clumsy, perpetually immersed in a digital realm or engaged in a spirited debate with his mother. In those days, he was merely her child. A figure who lingered only in the background of my life, appearing briefly during the friendly exchanges that took place in kitchens over steaming cups of coffee. As I opened the door to my friend's house, I was greeted by a sight that stirred something within me. He stood there, taller and broader than I remembered his presence, more substantial and intentional. In that moment, I sensed a change, a palpable shift beneath my skin. It wasn't just his face. It had grown more defined, the jawline more pronounced, while the eyes held a gentle warmth. It was the way he gazed at me, as if 1,000 tales were hidden behind his eyes. It was as though he recalled me not merely as a friend of his mother's, but as someone deserving of his attention at this moment. He smiled first, and I instinctively returned the gesture, even as an unnamed feeling tightened in my chest. My friend welcomed me with her familiar, cheerful banter, yet my mind wandered elsewhere. As he leaned against the kitchen counter, I observed the way his forearm muscles tensed when he reached for a glass. His voice had taken on a low, dry quality that added an intriguing layer to the moment. That evening, his words were few, and they didn't find their way to me. Yet each time I glanced up, his gaze was fixed upon me. Not gazing, simply observing. It felt as if he was uncovering hidden chapters of my life, revealing parts of me I hadn't even known I was sharing. Dinner was relaxed and comfortable, brimming with the kind of well-worn tales that close friends recount when the conversation hits a lull. He remained largely silent, offering smirks or half-hearted chuckles that cut through the air with an unexpected edge. I observed something my friend overlooked, but it caught my attention. I observed it all. The atmosphere in the room was imbued with an unexpected warmth. I found myself fiddling with the neckline of my blouse, feeling the soft fabric brush against my collarbone. There was a moment when I slipped away to the bathroom, seeking the refreshing touch of cold water on my wrists. I gazed into the mirror, confronted by a reflection that felt foreign, as if it were concealing something deep within. Upon my return, I found them savoring the last bites of dessert, and he rose to assist in clearing the plates. As he extended his hand towards mine, our fingers lightly grazed each other, a fleeting moment that felt charged with unspoken tales. Only a gentle touch, just enough to sweep away the thoughts I had lined up in my mind. After savoring my coffee, I rose to take my leave. My friend shared some ideas for the weekend, something laid back and easygoing. I acknowledged with a nod and embraced warmly. As I approached the door, he quietly moved behind me and swung it open before my hand could even grasp the handle. With a warning in his tone, he leaned in, his words brushing against my neck like a warm breeze. I shifted a bit, looking into his eyes for any hint of jest, for a touch of lightheartedness. Yet his face bore no smile. His expression was a mystery, cloaked in a veil of detachment. Then he remarked, "What a pity you're just around the corner. Creates a more intricate narrative." With that, he took a step back, leaving the door ajar, his gaze drifting to other horizons. As I sat in the car, a subtle quiver ran through my hands on the steering wheel. I convinced myself it was trivial, merely a young man attempting to be witty, pushing limits that were never there. But that night, as I removed my clothes in the bathroom, I caught a glimpse of my own body that felt entirely new. Not in a critical way, not in the slightest. It was as if a long-lost spark had been reignited, drawing me in with a captivating allure I hadn't experienced in ages. I let my fingers glide over my collarbone, mimicking the way his gaze had lingered there just moments before. I opened my underwear drawer and paused, gazing at the white lace that had remained untouched for months. A spark ignited within me. Not a recollection, but rather a feeling of what's to come. My husband lay in bed, drifting into slumber, engrossed in whatever tale unfolded on his tablet. He glanced upward, a fleeting smile gracing his lips, before redirecting his attention to the screen. I reclined next to him, quiet, my attire only partially in place. He was oblivious. Perhaps he knew, but decided to remain silent. That was the way we operated recently, softly navigating around the unspoken with a courteous touch. In the shadows, I revisited that instant at the threshold. His voice whispered softly beside me. The moment of silence before he spoke, I had a feeling he would show up. I had a feeling our paths would cross once more, And I also knew, though I tried to deny it, a part of me longed for that more than anything else in recent weeks. As I shifted onto my side, turning my back to my husband, I brought my thighs together. Gradually, in a gentle manner. It wasn't longing precisely. It was the lingering sensation of recognition. And that, I believe, was the peace I had been longing for all this time. It was unexpected to cross paths with him again so quickly. The idea had hung around since that night, weaving its way into the more tranquil moments of my life. As I fold the laundry, prepare dinner, and even brush my teeth with my husband by my side, moments unfold around us. That thought was not one I embraced. It was as if there was an electric hum just out of reach. It resonates softly like a distant whisper from a place unseen. Yet in its subtle harshness, existence appears to recognize when a transformation stirs within you. Once upon a Tuesday, it stands out in my mind as it was the day dedicated to laundry. I stepped out of the house, my attire a bit haphazard, a dress made of cotton, without any cosmetics, hair casually gathered, a style that fades into the background. I dropped in at my friend's house to hand back a baking dish. I never intended to linger. At first I hesitated to knock. I slipped in through the back door just like I always did. She was absent from the house. The house stood in silence. In the dimly lit hallway, I paused, dish in hand, contemplating whether to place it on the counter and quietly slip away, leaving no trace behind. Yet he was present. I was unaware of his presence. He emerged unexpectedly at the threshold of the kitchen, bare feet on the cool floor, cradling a coffee mug, his eyes still heavy with sleep. "Hey," he murmured, his voice gravelly from sleep. "I didn't notice your arrival." "I was merely delivering this," I responded swiftly, raising the dish a bit as if that clarified it all. As he entered the kitchen, he casually leaned against the counter, ready to share what was on his mind. His t-shirt hugged his form in ways that drew my gaze, challenging my focus. He appeared as if he had just rolled out of bed, not quite ready to receive visitors, and for a brief moment I felt a twinge of embarrassment standing there. In a scene that feels all too familiar, a woman married and nearly twice his age stands there cradling a dish as if she stepped straight out of a suburban tale. "Would you like a cup of coffee?" he inquired. I wish I had declined. Every fiber of my being was aware of that, yet I gave a nod. He glided through this scene, a calm presence in the midst of it all. I lingered at the threshold of the kitchen, arms folded, feigning indifference to the proximity he maintained while pouring. As he passed me the cup, our fingers lightly grazed once more. This time the encounter seemed destined. It hung in the air. We chose not to take a seat. In that hushed kitchen, we found ourselves standing across from one another, the air thick with memories. I took a sip of the coffee. It had a powerful, sharp edge. I was perfectly fine with it. He studied me, a hint of surprise in his voice, as he remarked on the unexpected visit. "I had no intention of sticking around." "Have you always been this spontaneous?" I arched an eyebrow. "Is it your usual style to stroll about in such a relaxed state of undress?" He smiled with a twinkle in his eye. "It varies based on the audience." Once more the hush envelops everything, not uncomfortable. A deeper tale. His eyes traveled from my face to my collarbone, then descended further. The atmosphere around us changed, heavy and quiet. "I think it's time for me to leave," I remarked. Yet I remained still. He placed his mug on the table, a quiet moment lingering in the air. "Is it worth considering?" I gazed at him intently. I aimed to conjure a remark that would drift away effortlessly, something playful enough to vanish into the air, yet silence enveloped me instead. He moved in nearer. With each step, a new tale unfolds. The edge of the kitchen counter met my back, a sudden chill coursing through me, contrasting sharply with the warmth of the day, the delicate fabric of my dress barely shielding me from the cool touch. He kept his distance. They were right there, almost invading my space. "He mentioned that you have been on his mind." The impact of the words was more profound than expected. He was youthful, daring, perhaps a bit impulsive. Yet his voice carried no hint of arrogance, only truthfulness, and that unraveled me more than anything else ever could. I chose to remain silent. I was unable to do that. His hand rose with a certain nonchalance, brushing against my jaw. Gently, the back of his fingers brushed softly, a fleeting touch. My skin ignited in the wake of his presence. And so, the moment arrived. He leaned in a deliberate motion that gave me the chance to pull back, to dismiss it with a laugh. However, I chose not to. As I leaned in, my head tilted instinctively and my eyes gently closed just before our lips met. The kiss felt intense, charged with unspoken emotion. It was a blaze, unexpected and all-encompassing, akin to igniting a match and witnessing the flames dance before your mind can grasp it. My hands wandered aimlessly, unsure of their destination. One discovered his heart, while the other clutched the edge of the counter. I savored the rich flavor of coffee alongside another intriguing essence. There was a sense of urgency, a freshness that felt more vibrant than I recalled experiencing. It unfolded in a fleeting moment, perhaps stretching into something more. I withdrew, initially my breath trapped in my throat, heart pounding fiercely. "I cannot," I murmured softly, yet I remained still. He gazed at me, his eyes deeper than they had ever been. "You have already shared that." A noise from beyond the walls, perhaps the sound of footsteps, a door of a car. It divided the moment into two distinct halves. I took a step back, almost sending the dish tumbling. It was placed on the counter with a bit too much force. Text. "I must take my leave now," I repeated. My voice trembled and I despised that he could sense it. He allowed me to continue, simply gave a nod, leisurely. "Catch you later." I stepped out of the house, not glancing over my shoulder, slipped into the car, my hands clenched around the steering wheel, knuckles turning pale with tension. My heartbeat resonated in every corner. In my ears, my throat, the space between my legs, tails weave through the silence, whispering secrets of the unseen. Upon returning home, I tossed my dress into the hamper as if it had committed a great betrayal. I transformed into a shade of monotony, a whisper of gentleness. I drifted through the house, a silent specter steering clear of my own image. My husband returned home later than he typically does. He pressed his lips gently against my cheek. I recoiled. He remained unaware, or feigned ignorance. That night, as he extended his hand towards me in the darkness, I welcomed it. His hands held a sense of familiarity, his cadence recognized. Yet I found myself lying there, gazing at the ceiling, attempting to quiet the echoes of a different hand, a different mouth, a different presence. When it came to an end, I expressed that I felt weary. He rolled onto his side, a sense of satisfaction washing over him. I turned away from him, clutching a pillow to my stomach as if it could ease the pain within. I held back my tears. I felt no remorse. There was a peculiar sense of completeness, as if something had shattered within me, and I wasn't prepared to mend it just yet. It was more than a mere kiss. Once upon a time, a new chapter unfolded, and I understood that I would allow it to unfold once more. I believed that turning a blind eye would come naturally, that I could nestle the memory away in a serene, hidden part of my being and continue as if nothing had changed. I had experienced it previously. Hidden sorrows, unfulfilled desires, and unspoken grievances. It had become second nature at this point, yet this was unlike anything else. The kiss had left its mark on my very being. The memory lingered, the imprint of his lips against mine, the gentle touch of his fingers resting near my jaw. The mornings carried his essence, a lingering flavor that danced on my tongue, while the warmth that blossomed beneath my clothes ignited whenever I caught sight of my own reflection. I attempted to set it aside. I convinced myself it was an error, a twist of fate, an act of folly that held no significance, and yet I felt a pause in my steps as I walked by his street. As I took my time, I kept an eye out for his car, pondering whether his memories mirrored mine, pointed, vibrant, thrilling. For days, I steered clear of my friend's house. I turned down her invitations, pretended to have headaches, and said I had errands to run. She accepted it without hesitation. She was caught up in her own world, immersed in her ambitions, her thoughts swirling around projects and travel arrangements. Yet deep down I understood that this couldn't last indefinitely. I would have to confront him once more. Imagine or embrace reality fully. It felt like a weight had been lifted when I unexpectedly crossed paths with him in a different place. A place of balance. At the local community center, I dedicated my time twice a month to a program focused on enhancing literacy skills. As I wrapped up my session and began to gather my things, I caught sight of him in the hallway, engaged in conversation with someone close to the entrance. He donned a jacket over a dark shirt paired with jeans, his hair a bit tousled, hinting at adventures untold. He appeared unremarkable, welcoming. And yet every part of me sparkled at the sight of him. He caught sight of me. In that moment, our gazes intertwined. He remained expressionless. I swiftly averted my gaze, feigning engrossment in the pile of documents clutched in my grasp. The sound of his footsteps reached my ears, signaling his arrival before his voice broke the silence. "Are you getting involved in volunteering at this moment?" he inquired with a nonchalant air. I looked up. "Always have done so." He stood by the doorframe, arms folded, observing me with that familiar, enigmatic look. "What a surprise to find you here." In a similar vein, a moment of stillness. "After that, I set aside something special for you." I furrowed my brow. "Could you clarify that?" He retrieved a creased sheet from his jacket and placed it delicately on the table's edge. "I have a question to share." That's all there is to it." I chose not to grasp it. I focused on his fingers instead. How they paused against the wood, caught in a moment that stretched just a heartbeat longer. A message could have been sent. I remarked, attempting to maintain an air of nonchalance. "You shut me out," he responded with a sense of calmness. "Simply the truth." I chose to remain silent. He took a step back, his gaze locked onto mine. "Wishing you well." And then he vanished, leaving only a whisper of the cologne that lingered in the air, clear and concise, pointed, with a hint of metal. After a long pause, I finally reached for the paper. It was straightforward. His handwriting flowed quickly, yet it remained clear and understandable. "If I were to reach out for another chance to share a conversation, would you be open to it?" Untitled. Not enough time. "Take your time." I tucked it away with great care, my heart racing, as if I had just done something forbidden. Throughout my journey home, I reminded myself to hold back my replies. I realized I had ventured beyond my limits. It was time for it to come to an end. Yet, as the night deepened and my husband lay beside me, his breaths a gentle rhythm, I found myself reaching for the note once more. In the gentle illumination of my bedside lamp, I immersed myself in the narrative. In that moment, I discovered my hand moving to craft a response on the back, as if guided by an unseen force. Indeed, once upon a time, and that concludes everything. Rest eluded me last night. My dreams were filled with a tapestry of fragmented scenes. His face hovered near, the sound of my husband's voice echoing from another room, the crisp, sharp sound of paper being ripped apart. Upon waking, a sense of emptiness enveloped me, as if a deep part of me had been polished to a shine. As I strolled through the morning light, I carefully placed the note into an envelope, sealing my thoughts within, before letting it slip into the mailbox that stood sentinel by his building. I chose not to linger for an answer. I was uncertain whether he would ever come across it. I convinced myself that it didn't matter. Just 2 days later, a message found its way to me through a friend we both knew. A figure from the heart of it all, a person oblivious to the contents of their delivery, a gentle nudge to keep in mind. On Friday around 4 o'clock, you can find him at the cozy cafe by the park. Should you feel inspired to visit, you're welcome to come by. I regret my decision to go. I was aware of that. As the day unfolded, I stood before the mirror, slipping into a blouse that had long been forgotten in the depths of my closet. Gentle and inviting, the fabric whispers of comfort and warmth. Short neckline, sleeves that embraced my arms. I selected earrings that swayed gently with each turn of my head. I donned the fragrance I typically reserved for special occasions. As I stepped into the cafe, a flutter of anticipation danced in my stomach, yet my hands remained calm and composed. He had arrived, settled comfortably at a quaint table by the window. A cup of coffee sat before him. His phone lay silent, waiting for a tale to be told. As I drew near, he lifted his gaze, and in that moment, I noticed a change in his expression that I had never seen before. Not playful antics, lacking assurance, yet it feels more like appreciation. "Hello," I remarked, settling into the chair across from him. "You arrived," I made a promise. He nodded, his gaze fixed on me as if waiting for a tale to unfold. "Your appearance has changed, unique in a positive way." He wore a sly grin. Indeed, the dialogue began with an air of discomfort. We shared tales of trivial matters. Once upon a time, the town was a different place. The atmosphere outside, his brief stint at a design firm. Yet hidden within each phrase, the atmosphere surrounding us throbbed with untold realities. With each forward lean, a thrill coursed through me, leaving me momentarily breathless. Each time his knee touched mine beneath the table, I found myself drifting away from my own words. He left the kiss unspoken. I didn't either. As I was about to grab my coat, he looked at me and said, You know you never got around to answering the second question. I stood still, caught in the moment. What is the follow-up question? He locked eyes with me. Do you wish for a repeat of that experience? I gazed at him, my heart racing wildly. He mentioned that it wasn't something he voiced aloud, yet I believe you caught wind of it regardless. I rose gradually, adjusting the fabric of my coat with care. What leads you to believe that I haven't provided an answer already? He inclined his head as if inviting a tale to unfold, as long as you remain present. As the day began to wane, the sun cast a warm golden hue over the pavement, inviting tales of the moments that had unfolded beneath its glow. The air carried a chill, yet my skin felt the heat beneath my blouse. I made my way home steady and resolute, never glancing over my shoulder. That evening, I found myself gazing into the mirror once more before drifting off to sleep. The earring hung from my ears, a delicate reminder of moments past. I gently removed my blouse, folded it with care, and tucked it away in the drawer, as if hiding a cherished secret. From the bedroom, my husband's voice floated through the air, inquiring if I had remembered to switch off the lights downstairs. I agreed, even though uncertainty lingered in my mind. I settled into bed next to him, the aroma of that cafe lingering in the air, the resonance of a question still playing in my mind, a question I had responded to not through speech, but simply by being there. And I understood. I had no intention of keeping my distance. I never mentioned that I would be coming. Silence enveloped the moment, leaving no trace of communication, no assurance and no rationale ready for when doubt might creep in. On that Saturday morning, as I busied myself loading the dishwasher in the kitchen, my mind wandered to the outfit I would choose. The idea arrived unexpectedly, as familiar as glancing at the forecast or contemplating whether we had sufficient milk. Organic, seamless, perilous. Honestly, he has been on my mind ever since that day at the cafe. His question lingered in my mind. It lingered in my mind like a mist, blurring the once vivid images I could easily recall. I navigated my day as if I were a meticulously crafted character in a tale. Everyday tasks, small interactions, and the rhythm of life unfold in the most ordinary moments, yet underneath a tale began to unfold. No remorse, no embarrassment, only the deepening sensation of eager expectation. As the clock struck noon, I found myself before my closet, caught in a moment of uncertainty about whether my choices were for my own reflection or for his gaze. I selected white, a blouse that had been tucked away for years, waiting for its moment to shine. It caressed my skin with a gentle touch, almost like a whisper of a breeze. I combined it with fitted jeans, modest heels, and a coat that I donned whenever I craved a touch of attention. Overlooked. Understood. I shared with my husband that I was going to catch up with a friend over coffee. He remained engrossed in his laptop, oblivious to the world around him. He inquired whether I would return in time for dinner. I expressed my uncertainty. The cafe was located a bit farther away this time. This isn't where we typically gather, far from the place we called home. A place of balance, a touch of elegance, more subdued. As I entered the room, I discovered him already settled in his chair. Before him sat a pair of cups. At first his lips remained still, not betraying any hint of a smile, simply gazed upon me, gradually from the top down to the bottom, then returning to my expression. The weight of that gaze settled deep within me. He remarked on your choice of white attire. I settled into my seat. You requested it without actually making a request. And you responded in silence. He extended his hand toward the warm cup of coffee, a familiar ritual that began each day with promise. I observed the dance of his hands, recalled how they had held on to the edge of the counter during that moment. We shared a few moments of conversation, everyday moments just like usual, just sufficient to seem innocuous. Yet his leg lightly grazed mine under the table, and we both stayed right where we were. It unfolded unexpectedly. And then what unfolded? Perhaps it truly was. Perhaps we had both come to a silent understanding, recognizing that the moment had truly come long before we were willing to acknowledge it. He took the lead. He mentioned he had something to share with me. A nearby local gallery awaits discovery. He spoke of a fleeting event, one that would appear and vanish like a whisper in the wind. I listened intently, not due to my faith in his words, but rather out of my desire to do so. The stroll was brief, just a short stroll away. Yet with each step my breath grew more shallow. He kept his distance, Glimpses exchanged, but nothing deeper lingered. But I could sense the electricity crackling in the air between us. Once upon a time, the gallery stood silent and locked its treasures hidden from view. He stopped in front of it, casting a glance my way, a subtle smirk playing on his lips. Well, that certainly leaves a lot to be desired. I rested against the wall, arms crossed, lost in thought. It was always destined to be that way. Perhaps. A deep stillness lingered in the air. Then he moved in a bit nearer. Only one. His hand extended gently, sweeping a strand of hair from my cheek, and stayed there for a moment. His thumb brushed softly along the curve of my jaw. Leisurely. Consider carefully. I let him continue on his path. I want to embrace the wild and the unpredictable, he recounted. I shared my thoughts softly. In that case, perhaps it's best to refrain. This time the kiss lingered, savoring the moment. It unfolded gradually, reminiscent of a memory rather than a revelation. We shared a moment that felt unexpectedly natural, but unspoken. My hands found their way to his chest, fingers gently curling against the fabric. I experienced it all. His breath was a whisper of tales untold. His heartbeat, the intensity that surged between us, no longer seeking consent. Silence enveloped us. Words seemed inadequate to capture the true magnitude of the moment. Once we finished, we strolled back to the cafe. I lingered nearby, yet refrained from making contact. My heart raced as if I had just sprinted for miles. He cast a fleeting look in my direction. Only a single time, and I could sense he experienced it as well. It was more than the warmth of their lips meeting. It was the significance behind that moment. I slipped into my car, ready for the journey ahead. As I made my way back home, the journey unfolded with each passing moment. The white blouse clung to my skin, whispering tales of the past. Within the confines of the home, a sense of stagnation lingered in the atmosphere. My husband had arranged the table with care, illuminating the space with flickering candles, and had even poured a glass of wine, creating an atmosphere full of anticipation. His smile greeted me as I entered, a silent testament to his pride in the moment. I envisioned an evening filled with delightful conversation and a wonderful meal, he remarked. Time has passed since we last connected. I lingered in the doorway, caught in a moment that stretched on longer than it ought to have. The difference hit me like a sudden jolt, the glow of his dedication. His voice carried a gentle warmth. I yearned for an experience that would stir my emotions. Thankfulness, warmth, even remorse. Instead, I felt empty inside. Before taking a seat, I slipped into a different outfit, opted for a more relaxed outfit, rinsed away the fragrance from my wrists. He shared the tales of his week with me, challenges at work, future gatherings. He inquired about various things. I shared my thoughts, and they were attentive. As his fingers brushed against mine over the table, I surrendered to the moment. Once the meal was finished, we quietly gathered the dishes, each lost in our own thoughts. As I stood at the sink, I felt his presence behind me, his arms gently encircling my waist. I tensed up, only a little. He pressed his lips against my neck, whispered a sentiment of longing for this moment. I managed to put on a smile. Same here. We settled in for the night quite early. Once more, he extended his hand towards me. This time I shared my thoughts. Our lips met in a gentle embrace. Allow him to peel away my layers with care. I considered the possibility of connecting the divide. Imagine a world where everything remained perfectly balanced, yet I found myself unable to cease the comparisons. His lips met those of another. He dances to a unique melody. His hands, familiar with every contour of my body, moved with a confidence that needed no invitation. I found myself wide awake long after he drifted off my fingers, wandering over my thigh as if sketching unseen patterns. The air was thick with the echoes of our past, collaborative documents, time-worn habits, freshly laundered garments await each piece a tale of warmth and care. I longed for the unknown, and for the first time I embraced the desire within me without hesitation. What really happened was more straightforward. It was something I truly required, not the excitement, not the hidden tales. I yearned for that spark of vitality once more, and he began to weave a tale that captivated everyone around him. He had reached into my soul as if it were the most precious treasure to be preserved. I shut my eyes and drifted into a void of silence, because I was already experiencing it firsthand. Some mornings arrive gently wrapped in a quiet stillness, as pristine as a blank canvas awaiting the first stroke of creativity. That Monday was a day filled with tales waiting to be told. As the world lay still in the embrace of night, I found myself awake, anticipating the dawn. The sky lingered a canvas of blue and gray, reminiscent of a bruise waiting to tell its tale. My husband shifted next to me, yet remained in slumber. I observed the gentle rhythm of his back rising and falling like a tide, and pondered how many different facets of myself he thought he genuinely understood, and how many he remained oblivious to as they drifted further away. As I quietly entered the shower, he remained lost in his dreams. I lingered beneath the warm cascade, savoring each moment more than I should have, allowing it to pierce my shoulders, flow down my chest. Let me share a little about my thighs. I leaned my forehead against the cool tile, lost in memories of a kiss shared with someone outside a closed gallery just 2 days prior. Reflected on the depth of my desire once more, not the experience itself, yet the emotions it stirred within me. Inescapable. As I stepped into the bedroom, I approached my underwear drawer and paused for a moment, lost in thought. I chose not to go for the familiar cotton or the classic beige lace. I revealed something unique, a rich crimson ensemble, a fabric I hadn't worn in ages, light and soft to the touch. It served a different purpose. A choice was made. That morning, I took great care in choosing my outfit. With a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in a long time. A black skirt that embraced my curves with confidence, a snug top that beautifully exposed my collarbones, a coat draped casually across my shoulders. He had posed the question to me once, softly. It's like a playful hint at the fragrance I chose. I have it on now. Not for the inquiry, but for the echo of his voice when he inquired. I shared with my husband that I had some errands to run. In the quiet of the hallway, I leaned in and pressed my lips gently against his cheek. He carried the scent of freshly applied shaving cream mingled with the zesty aroma of orange peels. He smiled as if he cherished the magic of everyday moments. The location for our gathering lacked any charm or allure, a pause along the journey where tales of travelers intertwine, just 20 minutes away from the hustle and bustle of town. He had mentioned it in a light-hearted way in a message the night before. A quaint exhibition is currently on display at the Heritage Museum, inviting visitors to explore its narratives. It might serve as a compelling reason. I understood that the essence lay beyond the art itself. Upon my arrival, I noticed his car was already parked there. He rested his weight against it, lost in thought, with his hands tucked away in his pockets, his sunglasses perched atop his hair. He appeared both youthful and remarkably confident in equal measure. It frustrated me that my body responded before my thoughts could even keep pace. "You arrived," he recounted, taking a bold step ahead. "Absolutely I did," I responded. As we wandered through the museum, we explored rooms filled with ancient farming tools and captivating historical photographs, each piece whispering tales of the past. We hardly cast a glance their way. We were merely two souls weaving tales to fill the moments, strolling through a place that held no significance for either of us, restraining our essence with each inhalation. He kept his distance, yet I sensed it growing within me. The quiet moments that linger between expressions, the fleeting glimpses. There was something about how his body always appeared to be just an inch closer than it ought to be. In the final room, a captivating video installation unfolded on a continuous loop, a cinematic journey through the forgotten paths of ancient railways, the gentle souls seldom gaze upon. In the shadows we lingered, hidden from sight. I mentioned a bit about the music that sets the mood. He mentioned that there was a deeper meaning being overlooked. And then, out of the blue, he faced me. "This is truly testing my patience," he recounted. "Quiet, steadfast, you are always on my mind." I took a deep breath. The ground seemed to shift ever so slightly beneath my feet. "It's not advisable. Nor should you," he recounted. "And so we find ourselves in this moment." I chose to remain silent. I took a step forward. He remained silent. I moved forward without a second thought. This kiss held a new kind of magic, lack of wonder. There are no inquiries. It was a tale of sweltering heat and gnawing hunger, months of restraint cascading into a vivid tapestry of experiences. He reached out gently, as if trying to bridge the space between us, gentle touches gliding along the arch of my spine. Then applying steady pressure into the area just above my hips, I pressed my lips against his with more intensity than I had intended. I longed to bridge the gap between my past self and the person I was evolving into. He hesitated and withdrew initially. Inhale, exhale, a rhythm disrupted, forehead gently touching mine. As we continue down this path, he shared a tale in hushed tones. "You'll find it hard to pull away. I no longer do that," I recounted. We lingered there for a while, simply inhaling and exhaling. At last, we made our way out of the museum, keeping it brief. The wind had begun to stir outside. My coat fluttered open just a bit, and I allowed it to happen, unconcerned about the onlookers. As I settled into the car, I found myself resting my hands gently in my lap, lost in thought, gazing through the glass. He navigated the road with a deliberate pace, with a firm grip on the wheel. The other is nestled near the gear shift, near my knee. As the traffic came to a halt, he finally found his voice. "This file exceeds a duration of 30 minutes. Experience the freedom of unlimited transcription at turboscribe.ai, where you can transform files of up to 10 hours into text.